And we can't leave out the three gentlemen we've got here this evening, can we?
Of course not.
We got the blue guy. We got Hollywood Nova, Big Stevie Cool. They're all here. The Blue World Order has joined us. Gentlemen, how's it going tonight?
I'm upright.
Never been better.
Very well.
We could do an entire show with each one of you individually, so we'll apologize ahead of time because we're going to ask all of you to come back and join us at a later time where we can spend more time with each of you. But for now, we've got all three of you as the Blue World Order. I guess my first question, I'm going to shoot it out to Hollywood Nova. How did this get started? I mean, rumors have it that Bully Ray talked about it in the back room. What's the truth?
No, I mean, when we started as Raven's Flock, I mean, Stevie was the first one. I know Stevie the longest out of our group. I met him at Mike Sharp's, and then he was the first one to get a crack at ECW as Raven's, henchman and tag partner. And then when they started growing the flock, they found Meanie, I believe, and Meanie can correct it, but they found Meanie, I think, in Pittsburgh or Philadelphia or somewhere. And then I came on soon after where I met, Pittsburgh, where I met, introduced me to Raven at a show in New Jersey. And we all just kind of started hanging out. We were Raven's Flock. And we were nothing more than window dressing, which was okay at the time. I don't think it was ever supposed to be more than what it was. I thought we were the best version of Flock that there ever was. And then we were just three guys who came up with cool ideas. And I remember when we did Piss and we came in the back, and I remember Bubba said that that was awesome. I don't know why it stood out to me. I'm pretty sure he said something to the effect of the only thing you guys could ever do would be bigger than that would be the NWO. And then Meanie said we should be the BWO, the Blue World Order. And then it just started as a joke. And, next thing I know, 20 years later, we're painting stuff on our face at Heroes and Legends 4 in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So
Blue Meanie, take it from there, Meanie. How did you come up with the name Blue World Order, and what prompted all that?
It was just a natural progression of stuff we were already doing. I remember I was talking to Al Snow, and we were just joking around about all the different parodies I'd done, and I was, thinking about the New World Order. I was like, we could be the Blue World Order instead of the bad guy. I could be the Blue guy and Oozing Blue Cheesemo and all this, and Al started cracking up. And I was like, you know what, this thing I think had some legs to it, and I brought it to. I came back to Stevie. I mentioned to Stevie. Stevie mentioned Raven. Raven went to Paulie. Went up the chain of command. And just became a matter of figuring out who would be which character. But, it just made natural sense for, the way it felt, But, it was, like Nova said, I can't believe that, in 2014 we're still here and people are still interested in it. So it speaks to everybody involved,
So, Stevie, when it was pitched to you, what were your thoughts? Were you 100% behind it, or you thinking, oh, gosh, career killing or what?
No. I mean, my career would have been dead long ago when I first put on the Daisy Dukes and the half shirt if I had that attitude. But you know what? The origin of what we did, and stemming from what I did with Raven, was he smartened me up early that in a company full of people that were trying to be tough guys, shoot fighters, everybody was miserable, everybody was angry, just like a lot of what you see on TV today. Not a whole lot of people on wrestling shows in WWE and TNA look like they're having fun. But when we went out there, we were completely different. And the best part was that everybody else was so protective and wanted to protect their shoot tough guy gimmick. We cornered the market on the entertaining part of ECW because, quite frankly, nobody on the roster really wanted to do it because they all took themselves so seriously, borderline too seriously. And we just embraced it, and that's why we stuck out. That's why we stood out. That's why the bWo, to this day, in a lot of ways, it's weird because more people seem to recall the bWo as being its own deal and not a parody of the NWO, which speaks volumes on how the fans really have a connection with it.
Absolutely. This is the Undisputed Wrestling Show. We're talking to the Blue World Order. Let's kick it on over to Morningstar Will Huckabee.
First question was, all of you gentlemen are very, as far as wrestlers go. How hard was it to go from being, serious wrestlers to basically being a quote-unquote comedy act?
I don't think we were ever that serious to begin with. I mean, we all had our, I had my deal before ECW, and I was trying to find my way, and then Raven gave me the character, the Blue Meanie character, based off of what I had already kind of been doing. And initially, I stuck to his game plan, but eventually the character just became my own. And Stevie, I mean, he could speak for himself. I mean, he was always like a fun-loving guy, you know, doing the parody off the, the Heartburn Kid and Shawn Michaels, and Supernova was, the superhero. So I mean, it was just. I knew the first night I worked with Stevie that we had chemistry, because we did, a couple of things just like off the top of our heads that, a lot of people went, "Did you guys play in that?" And we went, "Absolutely not." And, like Bob Ortiz was like, "Did you guys play in that?" And I was like, "No." But, man, you guys look like you've been working together, for years. So it just became a natural chemistry. And then, when we came across Nova Stevie and Nova knew each other already, but when I first met Nova, it was at a show called New Jack City Wrestling in New Jersey, and that was the first time that was the first night I did Blue Meanie character, and I was totally into this character. I totally got it, and we all, we're both children of the 80s and 80s wrestling and stuff like that, and it just made sense, and like Stevie said, what sets us apart is everybody was so serious that, I wasn't afraid to go out there, on the days to New Hampshire, because it set me apart, and, what we did set us apart from the rest of the pack.
I never got the whole comedy act thing. Like, I never understood that. Wrestling is a work sport, me and Stevie and me and we always talk about it. It's a work sport. Like, who's going to win or lose, so it's not real. So when you're painting, so to speak, for a wrestling company, yeah, you might want to be Picasso, but you might be doing watercolors one night. You're still going to do those watercolors the best you can. So if we went out there and sucked in what we did, there was a lot of professionalism and a lot of talent and a lot of ability to do what we did, as evidenced by how many other thousands of, like, parodies and goof and all that kind of stuff you always see in wrestling, and none of it's hardly ever memorable. The fact that the bWo, and I still can't believe this, is listed on the same DVD as the greatest factions in wrestling history as DX, the Horsemen, and those guys. Let that sink in for a minute. That two dudes from Philadelphia and a guy from the Jersey Shore, none of us were second or third generation wrestlers. We all had different family lives, normal income. Nobody was rich. We grew up as wrestling fans, and we struggled and busted our asses. We're all normal guys that you would see walk down the street and never assume anything fantastic unless, you see Meanie's blue hair. But the fact that we were able to come together in ECW when nobody ever thought this was going to be anything, the rib was kind of on us, and we took it and parlayed it and made it into this lasting thing for 20 years, that speaks volumes. And the three of us, we had other people in the bWo, but the three of us are the core group. That speaks volumes, I think, to our ability and what we did and embraced it and got it to where it's at.
Well, going back, I'll just finish it off with this. And Nova's right. Comedy wrestling, and one of Nova's best friends, and also somebody I think a lot of, Damian Sandow, what they're doing with a guy like that is just kind of, it's weird, because we used to say the biggest marks, meaning fans and people that aren't smartened up, are actually the people that work in the office. It's so funny that sometimes the people who are behind the scenes or in creative actually start to think that what they're writing is a shoot, and that the wrestler that they're writing the spot for, good, bad, or indifferent, is actually that good, bad, or indifferent. It's kind of weird, right, Nova? How you become as good as what they're writing you to be in their mind.
You don't think about it anymore. You literally say, this is what I'm be given. I mean, could Damian Sandow do a million times better than what he's doing now? But he's given that part, and he's running with it. The same as when we did bWo. Or I dare say, when Meanie was Blue Dust, or Job Squad Meanie, or Stevie was Dr. Stevie, or Right to Censor Stevie, or, even when I put on a purple jumpsuit and sold a fake workout system that didn't exist. That spoke volumes of our passion for the business. And even though we weren't main event guys, we weren't, all-time, or none of us are probably going to be in the Hall of Fame. But it speaks volumes for what we accomplished, again, that we're still lasting characters that people remember. I mean, we've all been doing this 20 years plus. You're not going to find 20-year careers anymore. The guys that are getting into wrestling now, that are just starting the Performance Center or whoever they've been recruited, whatever it is, you're not going to see most of these guys 10 years from now, let alone 20 years from now. That's my own personal view on it. And the landscape has came so much. You're talking to three guys who grew up on AWA, NWA, WWF, ECW, all of it, and we were three normal dudes who got together and went through all the trials and tribulations and got battle tested through the rigors of ECW, and we made a lasting gimmick that was supposed to be a rib on us, and we made it work, and now the rib was on everybody else because we became, I don't want to say legendary because that sounds stupid, but I mean, again, we're on the same disc as the Four Horsemen and DX, and that's insane when you think about it.
You're definitely renowned. We'll say that. Let's kick it on over. This is the Undisputed Wrestling Show. We're talking to the Blue World Order. Supernova's with us. The Blue Meanie's with us. Stevie Richards is with us. And Zane Paisley, who has painted his beard blue on this special occasion. Take it away, Zane.
Nova, I know that you were down in OVW, and you had just mentioned that you think some of the people that are coming in won't be remembered in 10 or 20 years. Can you talk about that class down at OVW that you helped with and how those guys are going to be remembered?
I mean, there was a lot of guys then like Nick Dinsmore. Rob Conway is still going strong today. Nick Dinsmore is a trainer in the system. Joey Matthews is a trainer. I mean, there's other guys. You're always going to have misses and hits. I mean, Sean O'Hare didn't make it through, and, you know, Matt Morgan had a heck of a run in TNA, and there's guys like Horseshoe, the Spirit Squad. I mean, you're always going to have recycle in wrestling. Like, you know, some guys make it, some don't. But, you know, John Cena, Randy Orton, Batista, all those guys came through OVW. But there's also dozens and hundreds that didn't make it, and you never hear them again. I just think that, you know, I tell people all the time, it might sound weird, but I think it's a little bit easier to get signed today if you're talented to a degree, or even somewhat untalented, but it's harder to stick around. And there's a lot of guys who will get signed and go to WWE, and if they don't get called up in 6 months, a year, or they're only there for a year or two, they kind of get disenfranchised, I think, and then it's over, and they're like, well, you know, that's it. I mean, you already played for the Yankees at that point, right? So how are you going to go play for the Bad News Bears or any other, I mean, seriously, or anybody else, and go put your boots on, you know, a locker room full of 25 people and make $50, if that, if your heart really isn't into this and this isn't what you always want to do. We did it. Like, we finished, I mean, I finished pretty much my career in WWE, and Stevie still does a lot of shows, and Meanie does, but we all feel the same way. Like, we were at the zenith, man, you know? And it just, I don't, a lot of guys today, I question, I don't even know why they do it, some of the guys. I just think they're doing it because, like, hey, you know, let me be a wrestler. And then when it doesn't work out, they're gone.
Well, and so I'm definitely going to be seeing you guys on September 13th at Heroes and Legends 4 in Fort Wayne, Indiana at the Fun Dome. If you guys haven't been there yet, it is a fun dome. It's amazing.
Cool.
Now, I know that, Stevie, you have a T-shirt store on Pro Wrestling Tees, and Meanie, I know that you have one as well. So if I were to pick out one T-shirt from each of you guys to wear there, which one should I wear?
You go first, Meanie.
Well, of course I would say the bWo shirt, but as a favorite of mine is the one one of the shirts I designed is the Three Faces of bWo, which you can get at ProWrestlingTees.com/BlueMeanie. It's a riff off of an old rock and roll T-shirt because I'm a big Van Halen mark. So I saw Van Halen do this T-shirt, and I saw a really good photo of me, Stevie, and Nova, and I translated it over to the bWo. So that would be my Christmas.
I like that one as well. What about you, Stevie? Which shirt should I buy from your shop if I had to buy one?
The one I would say is the #Critical Strike shirt from the Fire Pro Wrestling days. And it's a picture of me, Stevie kicking Taz, which actually has a backstory to where...
Really?
Taz, oh yeah, it has an absolutely awesome backstory.
I gotta go see this.
We used to play, Gabe Sapolsky and I used to play Fire Pro Wrestling in the ECW office. I used to be Lloyd Van Buren, the guy who would take your ticket orders on the phone. And we would play, and I created my own guy, and Taz's guy was already in there. And I made Taz's character completely weak, and I overpowered my character and completely squashed him all the time. Taz got wind of this and wanted to beat me up. So
no way. Get out of here. What?
100%. He goes, yes. Who the fuck do you think you are making my video game character fucking weak, motherfucker? Yeah. he was going to beat me up for making a video game character weak. He didn't want to ever look weak, I guess, not even in a creative player. I'm 100% serious. And now...
I don't remember that. I
remember it.
Wow.
Meanie remembers it. It happened.
Yeah.
Trust me.
I remember it.
Yeah, I mean... Wow.
That's where...
Go figure.
That's where AB3 came from. Remember that, Meanie?
Yes.
Yeah. He was like, let me tell you something, brother. And by the way, me and Taz are completely cool. He's an even bigger video game nut than probably all of us put together. I used to watch him.
Yeah, go figure, right? Yeah.
Playing Madden in the rental car at WWE on his Vita. I caught him doing that. So, basically one time he was kind of promo on me and he goes, I'm going to tell you right now, A, I don't fucking like you. B, I want to punch you in your fucking face. And 3, and I went, AB3, and he goes, shut the fuck up, motherfucker. AB3.
I absolutely remember that.
Well, I mean,
This is the Undisputed Wrestling Show. We're with the bWo. They're going to be part of Heroes and Legends number 4 coming up next Saturday in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I already have a great lineup we've already gone over. I want to talk about real quick, I grew up watching Bobby the Brain Heenan as a youngster, back in his AWA days, his WWA days. And I've always thought that Bobby was the greatest manager ever. But then you listen to Paul's promos and he's catching up very quickly. But let's talk a little bit about what you guys personally think of Paul, because you work for the man. Blue Meanie, start with you. What's it like working for Paul Heyman?
I guess a lot of people were mad the way ECW ended. So I have nothing but respect for the guy just because he gave me an opportunity. And when most people would have scoffed at the idea of giving me a 300-pound Connecticut in Atlantic City an opportunity to be on a prominent pro wrestling television show, he gave me that opportunity. And not only did he give me an opportunity to shine, but he was also very understanding with a lot of the mistakes I made coming along the way. And he helped me correct those mistakes. And he's the reason why you guys know who I am. So, he was very open to suggestion and ideas. I mean, like the bWo, that's why we're here. He could have easily nixed that, and it could have been, or it could have just been a one-night deal, and he could have just went another way. But he saw the fan reaction, and
he saw the T-shirt money too. Trust me,
T-shirt money. That was just next words out of my mouth.
Yeah, are you kidding?
I think the bWo shirts bought a couple rings, but I never made $1 million in the wrestling business, so I got paid for richly in his friendship, fans, and experience. So,
what do you think, Stevie? What's your thoughts
on Paul?
Oh yeah,
pretty much echo Meanie. I mean, in the end, obviously, at the end of ECW, a lot of guys that I'm friends with, care about, and respect were left hanging when he showed up one night out of nowhere on Raw. But there's a good and bad thing. Like Meanie and Meanie said that basically that's where we got noticed, and that probably carries us to this day, because I think more people remember all three of us from ECW, a little smattering of WWE and me with TNA, but our bread is still buttered from the ECW days. So I would sort of mixed emotions on Paul, and kind of they make a gimmick out of it now on TV that the guy lies and bounces checks and owes people money. So, and he's making more than anybody right now. So good for him.
Mr. Nova, what do you think about Paul's way he's carrying himself now on WWE? Stevie talking about made a parody of himself. What do you think about
he's
as a manager?
He's Paul Lee. I hate to say this, but he's a Teflon Don. Nothing seems to stick to Paul, right? I take a stance a little bit even different than I did a couple years back. To me, Tommy said this once too, ECW heat died with ECW as far as I'm concerned. The way it all went down at the end when checks were bouncing and guys were promised the moon and the stars in the sky, and a lot of that didn't happen, I thought that was pretty lousy. I definitely think it could have ended better. A lot of guys were like, what? And there was promises made that didn't happen. What are you going to do? I mean, at the end of the day, Paul's a wrestling promoter. He survives like cockroaches. They all survive.
All right.
And what he does on TV is he has no equal. If you're not around, and when you're around him, he's infectious. He'll make you want to light yourself on fire and run through the wall. We all showed up and we worked even when we were getting paid. We weren't getting paid, so that was on us. And as far as manager, I mean, he believes everything he says. He's a great talker. That's his gift of gab. Do I wish things had ended differently? Yeah, but I don't hate Paul. I don't despise. I mean, like I said, ECW, he died at ECW. Kudos to him. I don't make my living in wrestling anymore, so I doubt I'll probably ever cross paths with him again. If I did, I'd say, hey, what's up, man? And just the guy who pumped my gas this morning probably has more of an impact on my life every day than Paul does. But long term, he was the guy who let us do bWo, and he knows talent. When he saw it, he let us run with it. I don't think he ever had. I mean, he had more plans for probably Stevie than he did for me and Meanie. And then he saw towards the end this was catching on, and luckily we all ran with it and made pretty good careers for ourselves over time. So